In a small, poorly lit room at the back of a compound in Oberland, 18-year-old Bayo tied the knot of his bread crate with quiet focus. His hands moved carefully, like someone used to doing everything himself. His mother had already gone out to fetch water, leaving behind her usual reminder written in blue pen on a notepad pinned to the wooden wall. Do not forget to collect full payment. Come home before dark. God bless you. Bayo smiled gently as he read it. She wrote the same thing almost every day. Her handwriting was small, but full of care, just like her. The crate beside him was packed with soft, fresh-aged bread, wrapped neatly in nylon. The smell filled the room like an early comfort. He lifted the crate to his head, adjusted the strap across his chest, and stepped out into the street. The world outside was already moving. Children rushed to school. Keek drivers argued over change. Traders were sweeping the front of their stalls. Everything felt like a worn-out routine, but Bayo walked with the quiet strength of someone who still believed something good could happen, even if life had given him few reasons to believe it. Bayo had finished secondary school 2 years earlier with excellent results. His teachers had praised him for his intelligence, discipline, and kindness. He had dreamed of studying law. His mother had dreamt it too. But dreams cost money, and there was never enough of that. He tried a few things. He learned to cut hair. He worked briefly at a car mechanic shop. He even joined a local painter for some time. But nothing stable came from it. Eventually, he began helping at the bakery nearby, and when they noticed how polite and dependable he was, they allowed him to start selling bread on the street. It was not glamorous, but it put food on the table. He lived with his mother in one room. They shared a mattress, a gas burner, and a life shaped by resilience. His mother, a soft-spoken woman in her late 40s, had raised him alone since birth. She never remarried. Whenever he asked about his father, her answer remained the same. Your father was a youth corper. He left before you were born. I don't know where he went. There was never anger in her voice when she said it, only a distant sadness, like someone who had made peace with a story that never had a proper ending. The only clue he had of his father was a mark on his left wrist. It was a crescent-shaped birthmark, pale gold against his brown skin. It had been there since he was a baby, and no one could explain it. His mother called it a gift from God. It's special, she said once. Your father had the same thing. Maybe one day you'll understand. Bayo didn't dwell on it often. Life was already full of visible struggles, rent, food, long days under the sun. But there were quiet moments, especially before dawn or deep in the night, when he would stare at that mark and wonder, who am I really? Why did my father leave? And what kind of future is waiting for someone like me? He was not just hardworking, he was also handsome. He had soft eyes, clear skin, and a warm, respectful way of speaking that made people trust him. Strangers sometimes mistook him for a university student, and customers often told him, you don't look like someone who hawks bread. But appearances didn't pay bills. His job was to carry the crate, to walk in the sun, to smile and sell. And he did it every day without complaint. As he reached the bakery to pick up his supply for the morning, a few other boys were already there, chatting casually and preparing for their routes. They greeted him. He greeted them back politely, but stayed quiet. He was not like the others, not because he felt better, but because he thought differently. His mind often wandered. He dreamed silently while working, always imagining a different life. That morning, he tightened his grip on the crate, stood tall, and whispered something under his breath. One day, things will change. He stepped out onto the main road as the city came alive. He had no idea that the change he wished for was closer than he thought. A single encounter in Lagos traffic would open the door to a story he never imagined, a story of identity, separation, and truth waiting to be uncovered. But for now, he was just a boy selling bread, with a glowing birthmark, a quiet mind, and a smile that refused to die. The sun had climbed gently into the sky above Abuja, casting soft golden light across the city's wide roads and blooming bougainvillea trees. At the heart of Wuse 2, tucked inside a polished glass building with a silver sign that read Glowberry Cosmetics, Mariam Danladi stood by the window of her office, arms folded, eyes distant. She looked like everything success should be, elegant, composed, and untouchable. Mariam was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing beauty brands in the country. Her products were featured in elite salons, boutiques, and even a few international stores in Dubai and Ghana. Her face was on magazine covers. She had built her empire before the age of 35, and yet, something always felt incomplete. She was tall, graceful, and effortlessly stylish. Her hair was pulled into a clean bun, her soft pink suit fit perfectly, and her perfume filled the room with a kind of scent that lingered, warm, confident, and expensive. People admired her. Some envied her. But no one truly knew her. Behind the tailored outfits and the boardroom presence was a woman who often stared into mirrors longer than necessary, not to admire herself, but to search for something she could never name. Her phone buzzed. It was her assistant. "Ma, the board is waiting for your final input on the new branch location." "Give me 5 minutes," Mariam replied calmly. "I'll join them shortly." She turned back to the window. From the 7th floor, she could see the flow of Abuja traffic. Neat rows of cars moved like choreographed dancers beneath her. Everything below looked orderly, peaceful. But Mariam knew life wasn't always what it looked like from a distance. She had grown up in wealth. Her parents, Chief and Mrs. Danladi, were respected and well known in Kaduna before relocating to Abuja. She never lacked anything. Top schools, private tutors, travel, support. But she also never understood why their house always felt guarded, not just with fences, but with silence. They were loving, but never open. Warm, but never vulnerable. As a child, she remembered hearing whispers during family events. "They tried for so long, you know." "You mean Mariam is their only child?" "There's more to that story." Her mother would always pull her away when those whispers came near. As Mariam grew older, the questions inside her grew louder. Why did her baby pictures start at 6 months? Why was there no story about her birth? Why did her parents panic any time she asked about hospitals or early memories? But she stopped asking eventually. Not because she had answers, but because the silence became too heavy to carry. She turned from the window and walked to her desk. On her left wrist, a subtle crescent-shaped mark glowed softly beneath her fitted sleeve. It was something she never talked about, not even with close friends. It had always been there, soft, curved like a moon, golden against her caramel skin. Her mother once called it a delicate touch from heaven. But even as a little girl, Mariam found the answer too poetic for comfort. She had looked for explanations online. Birthmarks, genetics, symbolism. Nothing satisfied her. It was just there. A mark that felt like a message with missing words. And somehow, it matched the feeling she carried all her life, a quiet longing for something lost, or something never found. That afternoon, the board meeting dragged longer than expected. By the time she left the office, her head throbbed slightly from holding too many conversations. Her driver had gone to pick up a parcel, so she decided to drive herself, something she rarely did. The weather was dry and beautiful. Her AC hummed gently, the roads were clear, and for the first time that day, she felt free. She didn't plan to stop. But just as she approached a junction, she noticed a group of street hawkers moving through the cars. One of them, a tall young man, caught her attention. It wasn't his face at first, or the tray on his head. It was the way he carried himself. Calm, composed, a quiet focus in a noisy world. She wound down her window slightly. "Excuse me, do you have fresh bread?" He turned. And that was the moment it happened. Their eyes met, his, warm and alert, hers, curious and elegant. Neither of them blinked. He stepped closer, handed her a loaf, and as she reached for it, their wrists brushed. The exact same mark. Same place. Same shape. Same golden tone. They both froze. A car horn blared behind her. She pulled her hand back immediately, her heart skipping a beat. His hand trembled slightly as he lowered the tray. They stared at each other for just a few seconds, but the air around them changed. Thick, mysterious, electric. She paid quickly, said nothing more, and drove off. Fast. Inside the car, her chest was tight. Her fingers gripped the wheel, but her thoughts spun out of control. That was impossible, wasn't it? She didn't even ask his name. But something inside her whispered that this was not the end of it. Some stories begin quietly. Others begin with questions. But Mariam's story, the one she had been waiting for her whole life, had just begun with a loaf of bread, a stranger's wrist, and a mark that matched her own. It had been 11 days since that strange, silent moment in traffic. 11 days since their wrists touched. 11 days since two strangers saw a mark that connected them in a way neither of them could explain. Neither Bayo nor Mariam had spoken to anyone about it. And neither had truly stopped thinking about it. Bayo had returned to his normal routine, waking before dawn, collecting bread, walking the streets under the sun. But his steps were different now. Lighter. Quieter. As if something had stirred awake inside him. He replayed the moment again and again in his mind. Her wrist. Her eyes. The pause. He hadn't even gotten her name. But her face, voice, and elegance were etched in his memory. Who was she? Why did she have the same birthmark? He didn't believe in coincidences anymore. Mariam, on the other hand, tried to bury the memory in work. She increased her meetings, traveled to her Kaduna branch for 2 days, and forced herself to stay focused. But in quiet moments, during showers, or while staring into her glass of wine at night, the image returned. The boy. The bread. The mark. She had no answers, and she hated not having answers. Then, one Saturday morning, she decided to visit the Jarby Lake Mall. She needed space. Air. Distraction. She put on a casual outfit, jeans, a flowy blouse, sunglasses, and drove herself. The mall buzzed with weekend energy. Families strolled. Couples laughed. Music played faintly from a nearby cafe. She entered one of her favorite stores to pick a few skincare samples. Just saw him. Bayo. Dressed in a plain white t-shirt, dark jeans, and clean sneakers, he was handing a bakery invoice to one of the mall managers. His tray was empty now. He had finished the delivery. But his face, calm, focused, striking, was unmistakable. Mariam froze. She wanted to turn away, but something in her legs pushed her forward. He looked up. Their eyes locked again. Time slowed. People walked past. Children laughed. Announcements echoed in the distance. But for those few seconds, the world around them disappeared. "It's you," she said softly, before she even realized she had spoken. "Yes," Bayo replied, his voice steady. There was a moment of silence. "The day in traffic," she began. "I remember," he said. "I haven't forgotten." "Neither have I." She lowered her sunglasses slightly. "I'm Mariam." He nodded. "I'm Bayo." Another pause. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "Yes," he said immediately. They sat at a nearby cafe, choosing a quiet table at the corner. Neither touched the drinks they ordered. They spoke slowly at first, cautious, like people walking across thin ice. They talked about that moment in traffic. The birthmark. The impossible similarity. The strange feeling that lingered afterward. Then Bayo spoke about his mother. Her story. The absent father. The mystery. The unanswered questions. Mariam listened, her eyes softening. She told him a bit about her life too, not everything, but enough. "There are things I've never fully understood about my own past," she said carefully. "Like what?" "Like why my parents avoid certain questions. Why I've always felt like something's missing." Bayo leaned forward, his voice low. "What if this birthmark is not a coincidence?" She looked at him, visibly shaken by the thought. "What are you trying to say? What if we're connected in a way we never imagined? What if we're related?" There was a long, heavy silence between them. Mariam wanted to reject the idea. It sounded crazy, even for someone like her. But deep inside, something trembled. A truth she didn't want to face. "It's not possible," she whispered. "Unless." "Unless what?" Bayo asked. She shook her head. I don't know." Her phone rang again. She ignored it. Would you be willing to help me find answers? He asked gently. Not just for me. For both of us. She looked at him, really looked at him. And suddenly, she saw it. The shape of his jaw. The slope of his eyebrows. The quiet strength in his gaze. Something familiar. Something her mirror had tried to whisper all her life. Yes, she said quietly. I'll help. They exchanged contact information and agreed to meet again the following weekend. As they stood up to leave, the weight of what they had just started settled quietly over them. Neither knew what the journey would uncover. But the first thread of truth had been pulled, and there was no turning back now. Whispers from the past. The week passed slowly. Bayo found himself unusually distracted. He continued his bakery supply route, shops, hotels, even the occasional supermarket, but his mind was often elsewhere. His mother noticed too. You are quiet these days, she said one evening, as they shared a simple dinner of yam and egg sauce. Just thinking, Bayo replied. About that girl you met in traffic, she teased lightly. Bayo looked up, startled. How did you know? She smiled. A mother knows. Your eyes have been far away. He gave a half smile, then turned serious. Mummy, what if there is something about my past I need to know? Something you haven't told me. Her face changed. The smile faded. She looked down at her plate. You know everything I know, she said softly. Your father, he left. I was young and scared. That's all. But something in her tone made him pause. Her voice trembled slightly. He didn't push. Not yet. Mariam, too, had grown unusually restless. Her office staff noticed she wasn't as sharp in meetings. Her best friend, Angela, teased her over lunch. You met someone, didn't you? Angela said, eyes twinkling. Is he handsome? Rich? Mysterious? None of the above, Mariam said with a faint laugh. But, maybe the last part. Definitely mysterious. Angela raised an eyebrow. That doesn't sound like you. He's just a bread supplier. But I feel like I've known him forever. And, he has the same birthmark as me. Angela blinked. What? Exactly the same. Same wrist. Same shape. You think you're related? Mariam sighed. I don't know. Maybe it's crazy. But something inside me can't let it go. Angela grew quiet, then asked gently, have you ever asked your parents if you were adopted? Mariam froze. What? I mean, think about it. You've said before how strange they get when you ask about your childhood. Maybe there's something they're hiding. They would never lie to me, Mariam said, though her voice lacked conviction. Just ask. That Saturday, Mariam and Bayo met again, this time at a quiet cafe in Wuse, away from the buzz of the malls. They sat with notebooks, old photos, and a shared determination to find the truth. I asked my mum again, Bayo said. She avoided my eyes. I spoke to my friend, Mariam added. She asked if I'd ever considered adoption. Bayo leaned in. Have you? Mariam hesitated. No. But, now I wonder. What if someone took one of us at birth? Bayo whispered. And raised us without telling the truth. The idea sat between them, heavy and dangerous. There's only one way to know, Mariam said. We have to ask questions. Even if the answers hurt. They began their search carefully. Bayo visited the hospital where his mother claimed to have delivered him. He spoke with a kind elderly nurse, now retired, who remembered some details. Your mother, she was very young, the nurse recalled. She cried a lot. And there was talk, whispers, that there were twins. But no one confirmed it. Twins. Bayo leaned forward. Are you sure? I remember because she came alone, and left alone, but for some reason, 2 baby tags were printed. I thought it was a mistake. Bayo's heart pounded. He thanked her and left with trembling hands. Meanwhile, Mariam tried to casually bring up her early childhood at dinner with her parents. They shifted uncomfortably. Mummy, "Do you have pictures of me as a baby?" she asked. "Oh, they got lost when we moved from Joe's," her mother said too quickly. "And what hospital was I born in again?" "Why all these questions?" her father interrupted. "We told you before, private clinic, long gone now." The air turned tense. Mariam dropped the subject, but she left the table with 1,000 thoughts racing through her mind. That night, she couldn't sleep. She tiptoed into the old family photo box in the storeroom, searching for answers. She found baby pictures, a few, but none of them with her mother in the frame. None of them dated. And none showed her with hospital wristbands. Then, tucked behind a dusty album, she saw something odd, a folded piece of paper. It was a letter. Faded. Yellowed with time. It read, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ibrahim. As agreed, the process is complete. The child is healthy. There is no official record of this transfer, as you requested. Please ensure confidentiality going forward. SN." Mariam's hands trembled. Transfer. No record. S.N. Nurses Nene. She sank to the floor. Her whole chest felt tight. She wasn't supposed to see this. But now that she had, she could never unsee it. The next morning, she called Bayo. "We need to meet. Now." They sat in his backyard, the air still and serious. She handed him the letter. He read it twice, then looked up at her. "You were adopted," he said quietly. "And you were left behind." The silence that followed was thick with pain. And realization. "We are twins," she whispered. "Separated at birth." "But why?" Bayo asked. "Why would someone do that?" Mariam looked at the letter again. "That nurse," she said. "She's the key. We have to find her." It was a quiet Wednesday morning when Bayo and Mariam set out to find the woman whose signature had changed everything, Nurses Nene. Bayo had managed to trace the name to a retired nurse once employed at a small private maternity clinic in Lagos. The clinic had closed years ago, but some old staff records still remained with the health board. "If she's alive," Bayo said, "she's probably in her 60s now. Maybe older." "She has to remember something," Mariam replied. "If she helped do this, I want to look her in the eyes." They traveled together across the city, no longer just a bread hawker and a CEO, but two people bound by blood and broken history. They didn't speak much during the drive. Some truths are too heavy for casual conversation. Ajagunl. That was where the address led them, a narrow street, dusty and quiet. Children played with old tires. An old woman stirred stew by the roadside. They found the house, a small bungalow, faded green paint, and rusted windows. Bayo knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open. A thin woman, grey-haired and wrapped in a faded wrapper, peered out cautiously. "Yes." "Are you Nurse Stella Nene?" Mariam asked gently. The woman blinked. Her eyes were sharp despite the years. "Who's asking?" "We just need to talk," Bayo said. "Please. It's important." Something about their tone, or maybe their faces, made her step aside. "Come in. I don't have long." Inside, the air was musty. A dusty portrait of a young nurse in uniform hung above the television. It was her, years ago. She poured water for them, her hands trembling slightly. Then she Saturday. "You're not the first people to come looking," she said slowly. "But you may be the first to deserve the truth." Mariam and Bayo exchanged glances. "So you do remember?" Mariam asked. The woman looked straight at her. "You were born with a brother. Identical birthmarks. Loudest cries I ever heard. Your mother was young. Beautiful. Scared out of her mind. She had no money. Her parents had thrown her out." "My mother?" Bayo asked. She nodded. "A girl named Ronk. Barely 18. She came alone. Delivered twins. No one came to see her." The nurse's voice trembled. "Then a wealthy couple came. Northerners. They said they had no children, and wanted to adopt. But not through the official way. They offered money. Pressured me. They said it would be private. Quiet. Clean. Mariam's eyes filled with tears. And you agreed. I was desperate, Nurse Nene said. My son was dying of sickle cell. I needed money for blood transfusions. I told the young mother only one child had survived. Bayo covered his mouth. You told my mother I was dead. The woman nodded slowly. I lied. And I've regretted it every day since. Silence. Heavy, raw silence. Mariam's voice was tight. So they took me. Yes. Your parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ibrahim, they were kind, but firm. They renamed you. Registered you as their own. There was no legal adoption. No papers. Just that letter. Bayo stood and walked to the window. His hands trembled. All my life. I thought I was the child who was abandoned. The unwanted one. Nurse Nene's voice cracked. You were never unwanted. Your mother cried for days. But I made her believe it was God's will. I told her the boy lived, and the girl didn't make it. Mariam stared at her hands. What about our real father? He was a youth corps member. He vanished before the birth. I never saw him. Does my mother know now? Bayo asked. The nurse hesitated. I don't know. But I'll testify. I'll say what I did. You both deserve the truth. They left the house in silence. Neither spoke until they reached the car. The air outside felt heavier than inside. We are twins, Bayo said, almost to himself. We always were, Mariam replied softly. We just didn't know it. That evening, Bayo returned home. His mother, Ronk, was in the kitchen. He stood there, quiet, watching her stir the pot. She looked up and smiled. You're back early. He didn't smile back. Mummy, where is my sister? The wooden spoon dropped from her hand. She stared at him. Her lips parted. Her face went pale. What did you say? You had twins, didn't you? He asked. A boy and a girl. You were told one of us died. But it was a lie. She's alive. She sank slowly into the chair. Tears welled in her eyes. I wanted to forget. I thought she was gone. I believed what they told me. That my baby girl died. Bayo knelt beside her. She's alive, Mummy. She's Mariam. She's my twin. Ronk wept, the way only a mother who has lost and gained in the same moment can weep. At the same time, Mariam sat in her bedroom, staring at an old photograph of her parents. They were smiling. She was in the middle, a toddler. She felt both grateful and betrayed. When she entered their room later, her voice was calm but firm. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Her mother looked startled. Her father straightened in his chair. What truth? He asked. That I was adopted. That I have a twin brother. That you took me through illegal means. Their faces went white. We did what we had to do, her father said finally. You were our blessing. We raised you with love. But it was built on a lie, she whispered. I have a family out there. A mother who cried for me. A brother who suffered. Her mother broke down. We were desperate. I couldn't bear being childless. When we saw you, we just knew. But yes, it was wrong. It was wrong. Mariam turned away. I forgive you. But I must know my truth now. I must know where I truly belong. The woman who knew too much. Conclusion. That night, Bayo stood outside their one-room apartment, staring at the moon. His mother had cried herself to sleep. The air smelled of damp earth and distant smoke. Everything felt still, but inside him, a storm had calmed. He had a twin. A sister. A truth. All his life, he had searched for identity, for meaning. Now, the mark on his wrist no longer felt like a mystery. It felt like a key. In her own home across the city, Mariam packed a small overnight bag. Her heart was pounding. She had grown up in comfort, yet now, in truth, she felt like a visitor in her own life. She left a note for her parents. "I love you. But I need space. I need answers. Please don't look for me. I'll come back when I can." As her car rolled out of the estate gates, she made one phone call. "Hello." Bayo's voice sounded sleepy but alert. "Can I come over tomorrow?" she asked. He paused, then said softly, "Of course. Come home." Mariam arrived in a simple dress, no makeup, no chauffeur. Bayo stood at the street corner, waving her down. His smile was gentle. "Are you ready for aged bread and real Lagos heat?" he teased. She laughed, and for the first time, it wasn't nervous. They walked through the narrow alleys together. Children stared at the fine woman walking beside the bread seller. Neighbors whispered. At home, Ronk opened the door. Her hands shook. When she saw Mariam, she froze. The silence lasted only a second. Then, Ronk stepped forward and hugged her tightly. No words. Just trembling arms and a mother's sobs. "My baby," she whispered. "My baby girl." Mariam held her back, eyes shut, whispering, "Mummy." And in that moment, the years melted. The lies. The pain. The stolen beginnings. They were family now, scarred, but not broken. Whole again.